Psalm 86, verse 12 says this: I will praise thee, O Lord my God, with all my heart, and I will glorify thy name forevermore. It's a simple decision. You will or you won't. Understanding we do everything by the grace of God. I'll mention that in just a moment. And by the power of God and so forth and so on. It's as simple as making a decision, whether you will or you won't. And I'll say this again. It should be understood, and if it's not, let me say it, that we need God's help even to glorify Him. However, it's as simple as making a decision, and you don't defer it to Monday or Tuesday. You make that decision today. When Jesus comes to people in the gospel, He doesn't ask for a donation. He never asks for a donation. And even the Apostle Paul says, I don't want what you give me. I want you. That's a whole lot more. You know, I could ask you for your money, which I don't, but I'm saying I could. I'm asking you for a donation. Hey, God goes well beyond the preacher here. He says, I want you. I want you. When you make that decision, it will include all the fires and trials that comes in response to following the Lord. Listen to this verse in Isaiah chapter 24, verse 15. It says for us, speaking of Israel in particular, but we extend it to us, wherefore glorify ye the Lord in the fires, even the name of the Lord God of Israel in the isles of the sea. Now let me ask you, this again may be self-evident, but let me ask you, where is it easier to sing and praise and glorify God? Which, by the way, is an extension of what it means to glory. When we say to give God the glory, we're talking about praise and honor. Where is it easiest? Where is it easiest to give God the glory? When blessing upon blessing is falling upon you, or trial upon trial? When is it easiest? When is God convinced, if I may say it this way, when is God convinced that we really love Him? When He keeps giving us things all the time, or He starts taking them away? We all know that the true test of love is when you don't really have anything to necessarily give, or at least any more to give to that person, and you see how they respond to you. Now, God doesn't need anything from us. I'm not suggesting that, but I do want to say that it's in the fires that we find out what we're really made of and how much our life is a desire to glorify God. You start with a decision, and no matter what comes your way, trials, be certain of it, trials will certainly come your way. Fire will certainly come your way. You've got to be determined to glorify God in the fire as well as in the blessing. We are ordained that men should see with their eyes. People should see with their eyes our good works and attribute them to God, not to us. Listen to the words of Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount. Matthew chapter 5, verse 16. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. In John chapter 17, verse 1, and also verse 5. These words spake Jesus, and lifted up his eyes to heaven, and said, Father, the hour is come, glorify thy Son, that thy Son also may glorify thee. And then verse 5, and now, O Father, glorify thou me with thine own self, with the glory which I had with thee before the world was. Jesus' whole purpose was to glorify God, the Father. That's your purpose also. And I'll say this again, for emphasis. If you've been searching, what shall I be when I grow up? And you're already maybe 60 years old. Well, now you know. Your life was designed to glorify God. You've arrived. You found your answer. And I didn't charge you anything for it. You didn't have to pay this exorbitant fee, a 3-day seminar to find out your purpose. Your purpose is to glorify God. And I'll guarantee you, if you will start with that, God will give you all the other little details. But if it starts with a motive to say, let my life glorify you, God will then supply you with where to go and what you should be in your schooling and your college or whatever else, or who you should marry. The basic motive has got to be, I'm here, God, to glorify you. John 16:14, Jesus speaking again, of course, He shall glorify me, says Jesus. He shall glorify me, for He shall receive of mine and shall show it unto you. Those that glorify God will find there's a reciprocation of God honoring them. As I said to you before, whoever coined the phrase coined it wisely. Faith honors God, and God honors faith. It's the same with our lives. In John chapter 21, verse 9, speaking of the cross, and speaking and specifically to Peter, John 21:19, it says, "This spake he, signifying by what death he," meaning Peter, "should glorify God. And when he had spoken this, he saith unto him, Follow me." I mean, Peter here is being promised a crucifixion, which tradition says that this is how he died. Being promised a very brutal end to his life. Now, follow me. Hardly the way we go about soliciting disciples. However, these are the people that intrigue us the most. Let me say this to you. Did anyone explain to you, did anyone tell you when you signed on that there was going to be constant danger, hazards, and all types of things, even though it's written in the book? I want to say to you that no one told me. I was subject, just like perhaps like some of you were, how great everything was going to turn out, and it's going to be just wonderful. And I was told all I've got to do is pluck my guitar and sing and preach, and people would come. The more I preached, the more I laughed. It was, well, maybe not just the opposite, but it wasn't quite the way it was presented to me. It was a great shock, and it was very depressing. Hence, I'd rather give it to you straight and to tell you that this is what it says. But nevertheless, the chief aim of our life is to glorify God. And in the end, you can be assured that God is going to honor you. And you can be assured that God will have success.